Tonight, we invite you to step quietly into the past, to walk the streets of ancient cities, listen to the echoes of daily lives long faded, and drift gently into the folds of forgotten time. If you enjoyed these slow, immersive journeys through history, feel free to subscribe or leave a like. No pressure, just a soft nudge from one traveler to another. Now let's begin. Welcome to another quiet journey into the past. Tonight, we'll drift slowly into the ancient world of the Roman Empire, civilization known for its marble monuments, grand senators and military triumphs. But beneath the splendor was another world, quieter world, a harsher one. This is the world of the forgotten, the invisible, the enslaved, those whose hands built empires and whose voices were rarely recorded. As you settle in, perhaps your body growing heavier, your breathing slower, allow your mind to wander back to ancient stone walls and flickering oil lamps, back to a time when freedom was a privilege and survival was a daily task. This episode is titled, Why It Sucked to Be a Roman Slave and More. In our first segment, we'll gently immerse ourselves in the life of a Roman household slave, the routines, the sounds, the fears, and the silent hopes that defined their world. Then we'll explore the myth and reality of the Spartacus rebellion, the slave who dared to fight back. In the third part, we'll step into one of the most beautifully preserved mysteries of Roman archaeology, the Villa of Mysteries, and uncover the veiled spiritual lives of Roman elites. And finally, we'll rise from ash and shadow into the decadent banquets of Pompeii's elite. On the eve of disaster, so now take a breath, perhaps a long, slow one, and imagine yourself, not as an emperor, not as a senator, but as someone far more common, someone like a slave, in a Roman home. Imagine you wake not to the sun, but to the sound of footsteps, not your own. Soft soles brushing against mosaic tiles. The distant scrape of a bronze hinge. The subtle rhythmic clink of chain, perhaps a keyring or perhaps something else. A domus, a Roman home, is never truly dark. Even in the pre-dawn hush, oil lamps flicker in alcoves and corridors, casting long, honeyed shadows across walls painted in faded ochre and dusty crimson. Somewhere in the atrium, water still drips from the marble rim of a fountain. You hear it, always. You lie on a mat. It is filled with straw coarse, uneven, and faintly mildewed from months on cold travertine. Your blanket is wool, rough, and slightly sour with sweat. You've washed it, but not recently. Water is for the master's baths, and soap costs coin. You don't remember exactly how long you've been here. Time blurs when your name is spoken only in commands. Years pass, counted not by birthdays, but by winters without sandals, by bruises, by the master's son's height, by the new mosaic in the dining room, laid stone by stone while you served wine and remained unseen, your familia service. A household slave, not hired, not housed, owned. You were given a new name the day you arrived. The old one is forgotten, placed, like chipped pottery or worn sandals. Easily, your day begins before the master's, always. The coals in the kitchen must be revived red embers, coaxed back to life with breath and practiced hands. The pister, the household baker, must have his flour ready. The water must be drawn, the latrines cleaned, the chamber pots emptied, and the breakfast platters prepared. There are other slaves here, dozens perhaps. Some work in the stables, some in the kitchen, some in the shadows of the courtyard where citrus trees grow and stone planters, but their eyes rarely meet yours. Speaking without reason is dangerous. There are deleterious informers among the enslaved. Some are desperate, some ambitious, some simply afraid. all dangerous. The domina, the lady of the house, expects her morning routine to unfold like ritual. Her bathwater must be tepid, not too hot. Her sandals tied just so. Her perfumes frankincense, myrrh, attar of rose must be selected to match the weather and her mood. You hold the mirror. You adjust the pins in her hair. You falter. She may sigh or slap or order you flogged. Not in anger. Not always. Sometimes just because. But you do not protest. You bow. You whisper demeanor. You smile when she glances. You do not ask questions. Later, the children must be dressed and walk to their tutors. Their Greek lessons memorized. If they cry, you hush them. They run, you chase them. They are not your children, but they are your responsibility. The dominus, the master, may call for you at any time to fetch scrolls, to pour wine, to deliver a message to the forum. You move quickly, quietly, always 2 steps behind, never ahead. The work is endless. You scrub floors with vinegar and sand until your knuckles bleed. You press tunics with smooth stones until the folds lie flat. You polish silver with rags that used to be someone's toga. You carry firewood, you carry shame, and you carry it without sound. Meals are lavish, but you eat the scraps. Meat if you're lucky. Poles, porridge. If you're not, bread if there is any left. You eat standing, fast, in the servant's corner, or not at all. Sometimes there are rumors, whispers of manumisio, freedom, a legal act, a parchment signed, former master's gift. You've seen it happen? Rarely. 2 older slaves, 2 favorites. To the ones who saved a child from drowning, or earned enough by selling trinkets in the market after dark, it happens, but not to you. Not yet, and maybe never. At night, if the dominus drinks too much Falernian wine, you are expected to stay nearby, to refill his cup, to play the cithara, or to do things you cannot refuse. You do not sleep deeply. Not ever. You lie still and listen for your name, your given one, or the one you were assigned. There are worse places, you remind yourself. The latifundio plantations, where men and women hoe the dry earth from dawn to dusk. The mines, choking, black and final. The galleys, where oarsmen die chained to their benches. The arena, where death is public and praised. You have seen slaves arrive from those places, hollow-eyed, silent, their backs crisscrossed with healed scars. They don't speak much, and when they do, they talk of ghosts. And still, you are useful. You know the names of over 20 spices. You can fold a tunic without creasing it. You can walk across marble floors without a sound. You know which child is allergic to? Bee stings. Which guest prefers honeyed wine? Which plate has a chip beneath the rim? You know when to speak, and when to stay utterly perfectly. Still, your labor is invisible, but constant. Your value is in how little you are noticed. Your body learns quietness like a second skin. Movements become small. Your breath becomes measured. Even your thoughts narrow, folding inward like a scroll tucked away in storage readable. Only if someone bothers to open it. At times, when the domos is quiet, you pause in the corridor. You glance up at the painted ceiling. At the gods and heroes, at Jupiter on his throne, at Minerva with her spear, you wonder, softly, what it must be like to sleep beneath the open sky, to see stars without stone between you and them, to choose when to wake, or whom to love. You do not cry. It is not safe. But sometimes, you wonder. This was the daily rhythm of hundreds of thousands across the Roman Empire, from Hispania to Syria, from Gaul to Numidia, from villas on hilltops to cramped city townhouses. Not soldiers, not senators, not emperors, but hands, silent, calloused, constant hands that built roads and tended children. Cooked feasts they never tasted, and pressed sandals they would never wear. Hands that shaped the empire and disappeared into its marble halls. And now, from this silent corridor, we shift our gaze to a louder moment. A moment when the quiet cracked, and the invisible became a name history could not forget. A name, Spartacus. Let's follow the echo. Let us now drift further into the landscape of ancient Italy, a little colder, more rugged. The quiet stone walls of the household fade, and in their place, hills, olive groves, and the clinking of chains in the distance. This is the world of the gladiator, not the romanticized warrior from modern tales, but the trained commodity, living under watch and owned like livestock. And in this world, one name survived the centuries: Spartacus. Perhaps you've heard the name. A rebel, a fighter, a legend. But like so many stories told over wine and time, what survives is often far from what truly was. Let us untangle the myth gently. No rush, just a slow walk through the fog of time. Spartacus was not Roman by birth. He may have been Thracian, from a region in what is now southeastern Europe. A soldier once captured and enslaved, trained at a Ludosog gladiator school in Capua, the kind of place where the air smelled of sweat and metal. And the mornings began with drills, not sunrise. In 73 BCE, alongside around 70 others, he broke free. Not with grand speeches, but with stolen kitchen knives, crude, desperate, but effective. And suddenly Rome faced something it was not prepared for. Not a war of nations, but a war of slaves. Imagine the roads of southern Italy then, narrow, sun-scorched, small farming villas dotting the countryside. Into this landscape, a growing band of escaped slaves marched. Not silent, not orderly, but growing. Thousands joined them. Field slaves, shepherds, discarded laborers. Each with nothing left to lose. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't hold banners. But they moved with purpose. Up into the mountains, Mount Vesuvius, even using terrain as shield and ally. Spartacus. He wasn't just a fighter. He had the instincts of a general. He avoided direct conflict when needed. Outmaneuvered Roman consuls more than once. For nearly 2 years, this ragtag force embarrassed the might of Rome. But what did they want? That remains uncertain. Some say they aimed for freedom in the north, to cross the Alps and vanish. Others believe Spartacus saw something greater. Not just escape, but revolution. A true reversal of power. What we know is this: by 71 BCE, the Roman Senate had had enough. They sent Marcus Licinius Crassus one of the richest men in Rome, with legions determined not to fail, and eventually, the rebellion was crushed. It ended not with fire and glory, but with crucifixion. 6,000 captured slaves lined the Appian Way. A slow, brutal message. Spartacus, his body was never found. Did he fall in battle? Disappear into legend? We cannot say. But we do know this: Rome remembered and feared the idea that those beneath could rise. Even today, Spartacus's name lingers, echoing not as a man, but as a whisper of resistance. A symbol of what happens when the invisible dare to be seen. Now let's move deeper, away from battlefields and blood-soaked fields. Let us step into mystery. Into a villa, frozen in time, beneath layers of ash and silence. The wind fades, the clash of rebellion falls behind. And now we step into stillness, a different silence. One not of fear or flight, but of dust and darkness and time paused mid-breath. Imagine this. The year is 79 CE. You are near the Bay of Naples, nestled in the gentle hills just outside a thriving Roman city, Pompeii. There, beyond the city walls, stands a grand villa. It's not a cramped insula or a crowded tenement, but a countryside retreat. Spacious, refined, silent. This is the Villa of Mysteries, not named by the Romans but by us, because within its walls, Preserved beneath volcanic ash are frescoes that whisper secrets and refuse to fully explain themselves. Let us step inside, slowly. The rooms are cool. The light filters gently through reconstructed glass. The scent dry stone, old plaster, and something faintly mineral. It's quiet. Only the soft shuffle of sandals across mosaic floors. Then one chamber opens wider. On its walls, a procession. Draped women, musicians, a masked man, a woman being whipped gently, symbolically, another seated in contemplation, and a boy reading from a scroll, a winged figure raising a hand. These are not scenes of daily life. They are ritual. They are myth, initiation. But initiation into what? Some scholars believe the frescoes depict rites of the Dionysian mysteries, a secret cult devoted to Dionysus, god of wine, ecstasy, and divine madness. To join such a cult was not to attend a party, was to die and be reborn, symbolically. It was to experience transformation, to touch something beyond the ordinary. But we don't know for certain. The Romans left no manuals, no step-by-step rituals. These mysteries were oral, secretive, and intimate. To speak of them was to betray them. So we are left with images, with suggestion, with silence. Imagine the woman who once stood in this room. Perhaps she was young. Perhaps she was of high status. She would have been led here at dusk. Music in the air. Incense curling toward the ceiling, surrounded by other women, other initiates. A ritual enacted in steps. Stories played out in tableau, symbols layered like folds in a toga. She might have trembled. She might have wept. She might have laughed with release. And when she emerged, she was perhaps considered changed. Not in the eyes of the law, but in spirit, in identity. In some way invisible and lasting, and then one day, Vesuvius erupted. Hot ash fell like snow. Roofs collapsed. Life stopped. So did the rituals. And yet here they are, still on the walls. Their color unfaded. Their meaning still debated. Is it art? Is it religion? A woman's rite of passage? A noble family's declaration of spiritual alignment? Cannot know. But as you lie there listening, perhaps you can picture her standing before those figures as you are now in imagination, listening to quiet chants, the world outside forgotten, coming someone new. Now, let us leave the chamber. Let the frescoes fade behind you. Let us walk through the villa's open atrium one last time. Feel the warmth of a long-dead sun on the stones, and then follow the narrow path uphill where the elite dined and drank, and lost themselves in something far less mysterious, but no less revealing. We now ascend into the banquets and bacchanals of the Roman elite. Let us climb now, not just through the narrow garden paths of a Roman villa, but through the layers of Roman society itself, from the servants' quarters to the triclinium, the dining room. Not just any dining room. Imagine a grand open space. Framed by columns, with walls painted in rich cinnabar red and deep oceanic blue, golden vines.
Oh yeah.
Birds in flight. Musicians painted mid-note. And in the center, 3 couches forming a U shape, each wide enough to recline upon. This is not a place to eat quickly. This is a place to display status. To dine in Rome was to perform. Imagine yourself reclining, propped on your left elbow, your right hand free to bring delicacies to your lips. A servant pours diluted wine into your cup. Another offers a silver tray with stuffed dormice, or perhaps honey-glazed figs, or delicately spiced sausages. The food is not only rich, it is symbolic. Exotic ingredients signal wealth and trade. Pepper from India, garum fermented fish sauce from Spain, oysters from the Bay of Naples. The more distant, the more impressive. The more complex the dish, the more refined the host. And this is just the first course. Soft music plays. Conversation drifts like smoke. Guests laugh, then whisper, then grow silent as a performer enters perhaps a poet reciting Virgil, or a dancing girl from Syria, her anklets chiming faintly. The wine flows freely, diluted at first, but then stronger. The boundaries between etiquette and indulgence blur. When the night deepens, the bacchanalia begins. Not every Roman party descended into wildness, but among certain circles, particularly in the earlier Republic and secretive cults, these rituals of Dionysus, or Bacchus, god of wine, took on darker, stranger tones. By the 2nd century BCE, the Roman Senate had already tried to suppress the Bacchic rites. They feared disorder, disloyalty, the unrestrained mixing of class, gender, and behavior. But in private, in Pompeii, the spirit of Bacchus never died. These gatherings could become frenzied, ecstatic, even anarchic, not necessarily violent, but unbound. Imagine yourself still reclining, watching a noble woman sway to music, her garland slipping from her brow. A senator murmurs something into her ear. Cup spills, a plate shatters, laughter bursts and vanishes. In these spaces, the normal rules, the rigid order of Roman life, melted like wax in the heat. And then, just like that, it ends. The torches gutter. The guests stumble away. The musicians pack their lyres. A slave begins to sweep the floor. And perhaps overhead. On that final night in August, quiet tremor ran through the earth. It would not have noticed. But the next morning, Mount Vesuvius would crack open the sky. Ash would pour like ocean waves. The wine cups would be buried. The frescoes frozen mid-motion. The triclinium sealed in silence. Time would stop again, and centuries later, archaeologists would uncover it all. The lavish meals, the discarded bones, the ornate dining rooms. The frozen lives of the elite, banquets without guests, rooms with no laughter. Remnants of indulgence suspended between life and myth. And now, as the fire fades, and the amphorae are emptied, and even the memory of wine begins to blur, we drift gently into our final reflection. Let us return to the quiet. Let us contrast what was with what is. Let us bring the journey home. And so, as we leave behind the flickering oil lamps of Pompeii, the dusty footprints of rebellion, and the silent frescoed corridors buried beneath volcanic ash, we return to the present, to a place quieter, softer, still. We have traveled far and yet not very far at all. We began in the cramped, airless corners of Roman households, where slaves lived lives marked by duty and silenced lives that rarely made it into the scrolls of history. We listened for the sounds of footsteps on mosaic floors, of whispered Latin commands, of dreams deferred again and again. We witnessed a rebellion that sparked hope, but ended in crucifixion, thousands of them. The weight of Spartacus's name still echoes, not because he won, but because he dared to try. His story is not of triumph, but of resistance and remembrance. We wandered into mystery, through the villa of mysteries, and glimpsed the elusive spiritual world of Roman women. Priests initiates those whose lives revolve not just around the duties of the day, but the longing for something more, something transcendent, perhaps even something eternal. And finally, we reclined among the elite, at tables heavy with silver platters and ambition. We saw what wealth could purchase, flavors, beauty, performances, but even those with everything could not dine their way out of fate. Vesuvius equalized what society would not. History has no single voice. It is a murmur of many, the enslaved and the powerful, the forgotten and the preserved, the devout and the decadent. But if you listen closely, that murmur continues. Even now, in the stillness of your room, as the night wraps its arms around your thoughts, the past drifts gently toward sleep. Let it settle beside you. Let it hum softly in the background. Let it remind you that every moment you live is stitched from countless lives that came before you, silent, invisible, and immeasurably real. And as your breath slows, and the weight of the day lifts, know that you are not alone in the quiet. History is always beside you. Good night, and sleep well. If you've made it this far into the quiet corners of history, thank you for spending your time here. If you found comfort, curiosity, or calm in this story, consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know, and it lets us keep bringing forgotten stories gently back to life.
Sleep well.
And see you in the next chapter.